And I have a confession to make. I have been to almost all of the This American Shabbat events at Rofei Tzedek. I have heard friends and acquaintances give beautiful Devar Torahs that were both wonderfully spoken and eloquently written. I did not expect at any point to be speaking to the congregation as a participant in this project. I've never actually given a Devar Torah. Despite years of theater training and the acquired ability to schmooze almost anyone within a 10-foot radius, the idea of writing a Devar Torah and speaking my own words in front of a large group of people absolutely terrifies me, and I've managed to avoid ever having to do it. That being said, technically I'm still not doing it because I can't see any of you, and this is entirely pre-recorded. It has been a surreal experience to study Parshat Behalotecha with Rabbi Minkus, Joe Reisner, and Laura Hoffman. As a group, we had 2 in-depth discussions of Parshat Behalotecha and a formatting discussion about how to write and deliver a Devar Torah, all on Zoom. A few months ago, the only Zoom I had ever heard of was my favorite public television show from the 1970s, completely run and organized by kids out of WGBH in Boston. Now I spend hours each day on Zoom as part of my work at Akiva Schechter Jewish Day School, attending meetings and announcements, teaching and learning from students, chatting with parents, and basically doing all of the things that we used to do in person before COVID-19. I've tried to find something in the Parsha to catch and hold on to, that I would want to study more in depth. There was so much to wrestle and think about in this tongue twister of a Parsha. Behalotecha moves so fast and has so much ground to cover. I referred to my notes and a variety of supporting texts to illustrate 2 points in the Parsha. Those texts were the Eitz Chaim Tanakh, the Women's Torah Commentary, and the My Jewish Learning website. I focused on the paragraphs that bookend the Parsha because there are 2 descriptions and events that I found very interesting. The portion begins with God dictating to Moses a detailed description of the menorah, which leads to various instructions that are given throughout the Behalotecha, such as instructions regarding Passover, creating a council of elders, and finding leaders and influencers from among the people. Also, the incident at the end of the Parsha, leading to Miriam being struck with white scales, which illustrates some of the complaints of the people throughout the Parsha at an intimate level and how God reacts to them. The Israelites are told how to light the menorah, how it is made and patterned according to God's design, how to climb up to it, how to light it correctly, and in what order. This description seems clear and simple, and yet they merit almost an entire page of explanations in the Eitz Chaim commentary as to why all this detail is important. The one commentary I found the most interesting was an explanation that Rabbi Isaac Luria taught. It was that 6 of the 7 branches of the menorah illustrate scientific and academic disciplines, and that the 7th branch illustrates the light of Torah, tying them all together. As someone who sees both secular and spiritual learning as complementing each other even when they disagree, I find this to be a powerful image. In Isaac Luria's mind, secular learning and faith are not rivals. Each has its own concerns and questions. Each complements the others. This is what has always attracted me about the study of Torah. It was because of this idea that years ago I was one of the founders of a queer study group that met weekly to discuss the Parsha against the background of our own experiences, ranging from Orthodox to secular, and that each of these backgrounds and study methods was valid and respected within the group. We met for about 2 years, cycling through each of the Parshiot in the Torah twice, discussing minute details of instruction and construction over Shabbat dinners before Friday night services. Indirectly, out of that study group and the synagogue above grew my relationship with my now wife of 20 years and my children, as well as our eventual membership in Rofei Tzedek, moving to Hyde Park, and coming to join Akiva Schechter. At the other end of the Parsha is the experience described in the Women's Torah Commentary as the silencing of Miriam. Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses because of the Cushite woman whom he had married, for he had married a Cushite woman. As in earlier parts of the Parsha, the Israelites are complaining. And now it is not just the general rabble complaining about the lack of meat. It is those closest to Moses, his brother and sister, who are speaking direct Lashon Hara about his wife, seemingly about her race or ethnicity, without any evidence in the Parsha that his wife is problematic. Miriam and Aaron are described as fellow prophets, figures that have influenced Moses and the Israelite people from the time of slavery in Egypt until the end of this Parsha. God directly rebukes Miriam and Aaron for their complaints against the wife of Moses. Yet, since God has already punished Aaron by the death of his 2 sons for lighting a strange fire, in this instance God punishes only Miriam. Miriam is afflicted with what is described as white scales, interpreted as a form of leprosy, which is only healed after Moses cries out to God and Miriam is exiled from the camp for 7 days. In the Women's Torah commentary, it explains that not only is she singled out for punishment due to her complaints, but that she is also silenced in the Torah. She is described as a leader of the people, but after these voiced complaints and her exile, there is no record of her in the Torah again until her death. We know nothing additional of Miriam or her prophecy after the end of this Parsha other than Midrash, which is created from the imagination of other people. It is not really Miriam's voice, but other people's interpretation of what she thought, felt, and believed. Interestingly, despite Rabbi Luria's interpretation as the menorah as representing branches of both secular and spiritual learning, Luria wrote down very little of his teachings. His voice, like the voice of Miriam the prophet, was mainly a spoken voice, left to the transmission and interpretation of others. I thank you for the gift of time to study and speak about this Parsha. I hope that you will be able to read between the lines to find the nuggets of wisdom the Torah has to offer, even when it seems as mundane as the description of a menorah.